Hey everyone, Bradley tuning in, coming at you with another video. When you buy a property, do you just fall in love and put in an offer, or do you ask, who in the world is selling me this home? And I'll tell you, this matters because if you're buying from a non-resident here in Canada, it could cost you. In fact, there was a court case this summer that put the buyer liability at $92,000 in taxes owing on behalf of the seller because they purchased from a non-resident. I'm going to explain to you a little bit how this works and how to avoid it and protect yourself so you're not getting hit with a hefty fine. But before I get started, my name is Bradley Watson. We do these videos every week, keep you up to date on the latest tips and tricks here in the GTA real estate market. It's a beautiful day to talk about real estate, and so let's jump right into it. When it comes to purchasing or when you're buying a home, the seller, even if they're a non-resident, is still required to pay taxes, capital gains taxes on the money that they've made in the profits. The problem is it's very difficult for the government, the CRA, to collect that amount because they live out of country. So what they've done is they've said that buyers are required to cover the difference. In fact, they are mandated to withhold 25% of the capital gains that would be found on that property on behalf of the seller if they're a non-resident. And I know this is a little complicated, but if you have something called a clearance certificate, essentially says that the seller's already paid the taxes, the government just wants their money. And so we need to make sure that we're protected as buyers, because if you don't save that 25% on the side and withhold that from paying it to the seller when you purchase a property, you're still going to be out of pocket. And so in order to avoid this, in order to protect ourselves, if we're buying a property and we know or we can figure out they're a non-resident, we want to ask the question. Real estate can be complicated sometimes. It's important that we have accountants and lawyers in our court that are giving us the correct advice. And I don't want this to be advice, but I want to tip you guys off because I think there's only one way to avoid this in two steps. First off, you need to know the rule. Having watched this video, now you do know the rule, but the second thing is we need to follow what's called a reasonable inquiry standard that is outlined by the CRA. In this court case, they actually had a statutory declaration saying that the seller lived in Canada and would live in Canada on closing. However, they didn't. And in the documents, they found a lot of details showing that they were out of country. And so this wasn't sufficient. We need to sufficiently prove that they are, whether they are a non-resident or not. And we need to make sure that those funds are property withheld if we are purchasing from a non-resident. Again, not legal, not tax advice, but advice nonetheless. Make sure you guys protect yourself because you don't want to be charged for that capital gains that you didn't even really make money on. I'll see you guys next week with more tips and tricks. Take care and keep it real.